I wanted to bring up my next guest, who is Nancy Mulligan. Hello, hello, hello. Our discussion is investor time to be seen. And Nancy has taken 30 years of experience in business and entrepreneurship and distilled her knowledge of having a successful life in business. As a single mom with no financial help, she reached her first million in net worth by investing her time and energy wisely. Her passion for living a full life, including meaningful relationships and financial success, led her to develop her own way of working with time to ensure she gets the important things done and has time for her family, friends, and the things she loves to do. For the past 5 years, she's run two businesses, managed rental properties in two countries, been a mom and cared for her disabled mother in her home. And to make it all work with grace and ease, she developed her own unique scheduling system, Time Balls, based on her belief your values come first. It's a kinder, gentler way to get what needs to be done and have a life. So welcome. I love that that scheduling system that you created, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But you've got quite the story, Nancy, and I know you wear lots of hats. You juggle lots of things, lots of projects, all at the same time. What do you think in your journey has helped you to step up and really make your mark or be seen in a bigger way?
I think, to be honest, my journey being seen and visible beyond my small sphere really has just started.
Mm.
And it goes back to when I was in my 20s. It was very easy to excel in your career and go ahead because I had no other responsibilities. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And, look at me, look at me. And then I became pregnant and I knew that my values had changed and my son was my priority. And so I switched careers from a very successful corporate career and got a real estate license. And at that point, I knew I needed to be seen, but I didn't want to be seen. And I was 8 months pregnant in San Diego in July. I just passed my real estate exam, knocking on doors, trying to get people to let me sell their homes. And when you see an 8 month pregnant woman standing in front of you, it did kind of help. And I did get a couple of listings and people were shocked that it worked. And I was still afraid to be seen because the story that I never told anybody until recently was that my son's father was abusive and that I had met him when I was traveling and he hit me once and I left him and I came back because he begged me and said it would never happen again. And then it happened again. And it was an awful situation. I was in London in the middle of winter. I basically ran out of the house with pajamas on, no shoes, with my passport and 10 pounds. And I walked by a church and I knew everything was going to be okay. This feeling of grace just flooded through me. And it was when I got back to the US that I found out I was pregnant. And I talked to this man and tried to get him to see a psychologist, and he wouldn't do anything to help himself. And I decided at that point that I was going to raise my son on my own. So while I built my real estate career, and I did an excellent job of doing it by building it on relationships, when the internet came out, I didn't want to be found. So you could search me, you'd never find anything on me, even though I have a very successful career in real estate. And it was the shame and the guilt of not leaving the first time that kept me from ever telling that story out loud until recently. And that is what released me to be able to come out now and to start sharing my bigger mission and my bigger passion with the world. And I didn't even know this was going to go here today, but blame and shame and guilt, I want them released from my life. I want them released from your life. Whatever you're holding blame or shame or guilt over, release that. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself like you would forgive your best friend. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Because when that's gone, then you can show up on camera like this, and then you're okay to be seen by the world.
Mm. And I just wanted to kind of bring the previous presentation, the authenticity and the vulnerability is key for being seen, really, you know. So thank
Yeah.
you for going there. I know maybe it wasn't planned, but we feel it, and that as part of being seen is also being open to being vulnerable. So thank you for that. I think that's a really great lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
So I know that, and even talking about being seen, you mentioned blaming and shaming, and Marcy from yesterday says uses blame, don't blame, shame, or complain. So I know
Yeah.
that a lot of times we make a lot of excuses about
Mhm.
why this or that. But I love that you created this unique scheduling system called time balls.
Yes.
Please share more about that because I think we all want to know what is time balls and what is this unique system that you've created?
Time balls came out of necessity. Time balls came because I've been in business coaching I've had a great business coach, different ones for over 12 years. I'm a big believer in coaching and getting help from experts. And I remember sitting in my single male business coach, divorced, no kids at home. Uh, and he's telling us his schedule and how we're supposed to block our time. And there's a 2.5 hour period in the morning where you get to, just meditate and work on yourself. And then you go into your unique hour ability time. And then your restorative yoga teacher comes over at noon and you have restorative yoga. And then you do a little bit more work in the afternoon and you're free. And I was listening to this and I'm going, okay, by the time you've done that, I've gotten up, emptied my mom's potty chair, got my kid ready for school, drove him to school, come back, made my mom breakfast, done this, gotten maybe 20 minutes of meditation and prayer, and then I'm jumping into my day. And what I found is when you time block, and I'm a big believer in chunks of time to get things done in intense focus, but blocks are heavy and blocks make me feel bad.
Mm.
So when I'd go and say I had outbound calls for sales or something, and then all of a sudden my mom's screaming from the other room and I end up in the ER for the afternoon. Now that block, it made me feel like shame and guilt that I didn't get it done. And I didn't want that feeling anymore. So I would try to figure out how I could make it more fun. And so I created time balls. So whenever I have a project or anything I need to get done, I make a time ball for it. And then I do put it in my schedule as a ball, and then it can be fun.
Mm.
And then when something comes up, I leave white space in my calendar. I'm a big believer in as much white space as you can leave in your calendar as possible. So, for example, this week, it should have been easy. My mom just passed. It should have been easy to go to the bank and set up her trust account because I'm the executor of the estate. Well, 3 hours later, I leave the bank with the trust account set up, but I had something else scheduled for that time. And so that ball just got bounced to Friday. So that was on Wednesday. So I just bounced it to Friday. So I always leave a lot of white space on Fridays so that I can catch up on whatever I didn't get. And then that way, if you stay on top of your projects, but you don't talk negatively to yourself about not making a commitment, because you are making the commitment, but it's just at a time that works better for you. And it's just a much lighter and easier way to deal with with whatever you have to do, because I am running two businesses still, and I do still have rentals in two countries, and now I'm doing an estate. So although everything changes, once it's given focused attention and time, and you make it more fun and easy, fun and easy. Like
Mm.
life does not have to be this hard. Make it fun, make it easy.
I love that. So just to clarify, because you were saying like time blocks are heavy, but
Yeah,
time balls, there's some flexibility there, like they can bounce
they
around.
can bounce. So you can just bounce your time balls to whenever, it's like, okay, so I missed what I was scheduled for Wednesday afternoon, and I just bounced it to Friday at 11 is I think when I did it. And was working on, some content. So it it's just a way to be flexible with your schedule. There's a whole thing behind it and how you plan your thing and what you're going to do for the week. And I call it, instead of a calendar, I call it my valendar. And it's based on your values.
Mm,
So my value first is my relationship with God, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my child, my relationship with my stepkids and grandbabies and friends, family, and all of that. So what gets scheduled first in my life is them.
mhm.
They always get scheduled first. And I keep my commitments to them like I keep a commitment to a business associate. So if you say you're going to, be on a date with your husband, then be on a date with your husband. And also schedule dates for your husband or wife, because it's important to do that. And also to share that schedule with the family and the people around you so they know what you're doing and they feel valued. So,
Mm.
yeah.
One of the things I started to incorporate recently is flex time in my
Mhm,
schedule. So I put Fridays are my creative day, and so I
mhm,
leave that open. I don't schedule anything, and then if something comes up, I use, I have Friday to do whatever I need to do. And
right.
then the flex time is also where I get to take vacation. And I love that you're saying, tell people about this because
Yes.
they also like because if not, they invade, right? They
Mhm.
invade your flex time and they invade your time that you've dedicated to uh to whatever it is that you want to focus on. I think that we get a lot of distractions
Mhm.
and we allow those distractions. So placing those boundaries, I think, right, would be is key there.
Yeah, and holding your boundaries and learning this really complex word. It's okay. So lean in and listen because it's a very complex word. It's no. You are allowed to say no, and you don't need to give an excuse or a reason. You can just say no. I
Mm,
can't do that. That doesn't fit in my schedule right now. Just no.
mm,
And that one word, it can really have a huge impact on your life and on the value that you place on yourself.
mm,
And schedule the things that you love to do. I love to ski. My schedule has time. I call it my ski flex time. So there's times when I am not in San Diego, I'm in Mammoth. I get up early, I work for a couple hours, I ski all afternoon, I come home, I work for a couple hours. And I created that like flex schedule during that time so that I can do what I love and what feeds me.
mm,
And I'm just a strong believer that you have to give yourself joy every day and find joy in the mundane. The sound of, I woke up this morning and I heard one particular bird and I picked out that bird's song. And I started my day just listening to that one bird song and being grateful for that. And it's the micro moments of being grateful and being grateful for what you have that brings in more. And it's just an abundance of love and just noticing anything that you can delight in the day makes your time just flow with grace and ease.
mm. While you were speaking, I was reminded of somebody that I know who has a big dream and vision, and
Hmm.
that is constantly finding excuses in little projects around the house that they need to do, and just gets weighed down. And so whenever we discuss, okay, that big dream that you have, it's
Right.
like, no, 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 because I've got to do this and this and this and and there's making those excuses. There's that, but there's also something underneath that, right? Like, why are you making those excuses? And could you speak a little bit to that, maybe from your personal experience or from with any of your clients? Because I know you work with a lot of very successful women entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah.
And
That's basically an avoidance tactic. It really, when you're always making up an excuse not to do the thing that you know that you need to do. It's usually a fear that's based underneath that. More often than not, it's not fear of failure, it's fear of success.
Mm.
And there is a I've noticed in myself, just like me, and in others, that when you become bigger and you make yourself larger, then at times it can feel like you're a target. And if you've had experiences in your childhood where when you were standing up for yourself, when you were showing pride and you were cut down for that, and our society does that quite a lot, then it makes it very hard when you're ready to go out into the world to want to be seen and
Mm.
to want to be heard, because then you can be a target and somebody can hurt you.
Mm.
Just like that little girl who got hurt, whatever your story is when, you know, it happened to you. And we each have that. Take a moment now to think when you were a kid and something happened where you were really proud and you were told to tamp it down, or you were even cut down for it, or ridiculed, or made fun of.
Mm.
And a lot of that is that fear that's coming through. If it really is somebody who, I would say that's really what's happening. I can talk to you about the time management part of it,
Mhm.
which would be, don't ask out how, ask who. That's my
Mm.
favorite phrase. I'm over, I could go into overwhelm right now with what I have on my plate, or I could say, okay, how can I get support? So asking for support. Um, I asked somebody to come over and just help me go through the drawers in my mom's room because emotionally I couldn't do it. It's not hard to empty out dresser drawers. I couldn't go through her clothes. I needed support when I was to do that. So I had somebody come in and help me do that. So I'd say look at the reasons why you're making avoidance. And then if it really truly is because you have so much, think of creative ways to make it happen.
Mm. I wanted to bring up when you said something about cut down, I thought of something I learned from you about the tall
Ah,
poppy.
the tall poppy.
And since you manage properties in Australia,
Yes.
then I would you please share? It's so relevant because we're talking about being seen, and
So
this. Can you share with that?
yeah, there's a saying in Australia. Are there any Australians here? I can't see the whole screen, but right now, um, and it's called "Don't be a tall poppy," because see, poppies are supposed to grow in the field, and if you're a tall poppy, that means you're standing out from the rest of the poppies, and you're being seen in a larger and more beautiful way. So they say you need to be cut down. So they cut down the tall poppies. And that's a lot of the fear of success that we have, is because we're afraid of standing up and being cut down. So I say stand up and be a tall poppy,
Mm.
and be a tall poppy in your life, in your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with God, in the relationships you have with your family, your friends, with your community. Stand up for what you value and what you really believe in, and
Mm.
don't let them cut you down.
We do have someone, Carrie, who said that she's Australian and she knows that tall poppy syndrome very well. It has a real impact on us.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the reasons why people don't step out into the light.
Mm.
And each one of you, I mean, each one of you has a special gift inside, a unique set of experiences and talents that nobody else in the world has. And I love Marianne Williamson's poem. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah.
who are we not to
I read
find
that poem
fear?
every moment. Like I read that every day.
Mm.
Read that poem, because when you share your light, then you give other people permission to share theirs.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And as we rise together and we create a world where we look to celebrate each other and we look to hold each other up, that's the kind of world I want to leave to my grandchildren. I don't want to leave a world where we're cutting people down and we're looking for our differences. What's uniting us? I look for what unites us as people, as children of God, we're all connected. And I just urge you to stand tall for yourself. And when you see somebody else standing tall, encourage them. I mean, Alexandra, she put herself out here to bring this to you. And it was probably scary. Was it scary for you?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure it was scary for you, but you're here doing it and you're doing a wonderful job. I mean, these speakers have been incredible. Your audience is incredible. And,
Great.
you know, I'm not saying that there's not going to be fear, because there is fear, and feel the fear. Don't tamp it down. Feel the fear. Breathe into the fear and go do it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do what you need to do.
You mentioned something a bit ago that reminded me of how important legacy is to you.
Yes.
Yesterday, we talked about your $1 million mission. Part of that could be, for some people, leaving a legacy, which is making a bigger impact in whatever way that that you're called to do. But would you
Right.
share a little bit more about what that philosophy of a legacy means to you and stepping into your leadership?
Yeah. So I believe my mission in life is to leave a legacy that I'm proud of. I just had to write my mom's tombstone, and to put her wonderful life and all that she taught me and everything that I learned from her into one little thing was so hard. And our legacy is who we are. It's how we are being in the world. And the previous speakers spoke about this as well. It's how you show up in the world and how you interact with your family, with the people you care about, with your community. So you get to a point where you're successful. I've gotten to a point where I'm successful in life, and you look around and go, what's next? And I get so excited to help people create that vision of what their life is going to be for the next 25 years. Not that we're going to retire and go, ooh, but that it's going to be a time to refire. It's going to be a time to grow. It's a time where you get to give your wisdom back to the world and to share that with them what you have. I also, I love creating generational wealth. I love passive income. I love that I'm sitting here right now and I'm sending my little money dollars out, little soldiers, I call them, and they go out and they go and they gather more money and they bring it back to me while I'm sitting here, not really having to do much for it. So I love teaching people how to create passive income. Not just, so I could buy a yacht or something like that, because I really don't care about stuff like that very much. But that you have the money to do what you want, that you can give to the people that you want, that you can make an impact in the way that you want to, and to remove the stigma from money that it's the root of evil or whatever mindset you have over money. To me, money is just a flow of energy. And so I see this as just one way of creating an energetic flow of my values, is through how I value money and what it can do to help.
Mm. We're you've gotten some love here. Nicola says, I'm loving where this conversation is going. Thank you, Alexandra. Nancy, it feels like a fresh wind blowing and possibility arriving for us all.
Yeah.
The last few minutes of our conversation. So, and I just wanted to say real quick that what I've noticed with a lot of women who I've worked with who are starting to get into their 50s and then 60s or even retiring or close to retirement is they're talking about legacy. So that's where this kind of, I've mentioned yesterday that I wrote my book when I was 30
Mhm.
because I wanted to leave a legacy. That's
Yes.
probably not the norm. Okay, maybe that's the exception. But as women started, from my experience, as women have starting to get older, and men too, they start to want to leave that legacy. So it's so, so, so important to for us who are mission driven. And we're
Yeah.
like, what else? What else can we do? How else can we serve? So I love that.
It's legacy is I view it holistically. It's everything you leave behind: your knowledge, your love, your money, your joy. It's the people that you've touched in your life and the people who've touched you.
Mm,
I want to touch more people. And in order to do that, listening to the other speakers, because I have the same fears as
mm,
everybody else.
mm,
I'm afraid to get on camera. I'm afraid, oh, does my hair look good? Silly things.
mhm,
Um, how do I sound? Am I going to be stupid? I'm going to say something dumb.
mm,
But if I care more about the people who I'm seeing in your audience when I'm looking at them, and I want for them to create a legacy that they're proud of. I want for them to start imagining and creating a vision of their future that's so shiny that they can't help but start to live into it.
mm. Beautiful. And Yukiko said, please include the baby boomers too. What's interesting is that it was about maybe like at this point, 11 years ago that I started to notice that 55, 60s range. But now, as we're all aging more gracefully, I'm sure, 80, 90 and above, this is still going to be very, very relevant, or is very relevant rather.
And you can
So,
be very, I don't have much time, but my father-in-law in Australia, he was in at 96 when he passed. And I remember when he was 90, I wanted to take him to the seniors lunch. And he wouldn't go with me because he said, oh no, they're all old.
mm, mm,
And that stayed with me, that you can stay young and vibrant as you age, and with your bad knees that you can't stand on right now. Um, that it's the attitude that you have and how you choose to live. And I choose to live with joy, and I choose to be a tall poppy, and you can come and knock me down, but I'm going to bounce back up, and I hope that you support me instead. And yeah.
yes, let's all commit to be a tall poppy.
Yes, can I get a hand from everybody?
Yes, yes,
Everyone, I'm
yes.
watching you. I want to see some tall poppies. Stand up
So
tall.
while we wrap this up, I would love to hear in the comments what were your takeaways. Let's send some love and appreciation for Nancy. And while we do that, I will just mention your free gift is 3 simple steps to gain 5 hours a week to grow your business and life. And we'll drop in the link here to get that. And while we wrap, because I've been surprisingly on time in like 20 or 30 seconds, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, I would say to have fun, to imagine your vision for the future and live in the present. Be in the now, take tiny microscopic moments of joy in everything around you, and it changes your whole outlook on life.
Mm, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Nancy, for being here. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you for
wisdom,
having me. It was so much
love.
fun.
And absolutely, we had a lot of hands saying they commit to be the tall poppy. I even stood a little taller. So thank you for that. Mwah. Hugs to you. I know we'll be talking about legacy more because that's a juicy
Thank you.
topic.
Thank you, everybody. It was so fun to be with you. And thanks for sharing this time with us. And I look forward to learning more from you all.
For more help growing your visibility and monetizing your brand, go to alexanderfigueredo.com. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Thank you.